Shanahan. To everybody out there who's coming on to watch this video, I'm Tom Shanahan. I'm the author of Spiritual Adrenaline, a lifestyle plan to strengthen and nourish your recovery, which was published by Central Recovery Press. There you go. Thank you so much, Ginger. You've got it up there in January 2019. And my guest today is Ginger. How do I pronounce your last name properly?
It's Malcom.
Oh, just said Malcom? Okay, on board, Ginger. I met you in January of this year when my book was published, and down in North Carolina in Bryson City at the event for the launch of my book. So just give me a little bit of background about you, where you live, your family life, and just about, just a little bit about what led you into addiction recovery.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm a military kid. I've lived in 10 different states. Got clean 7.5 years ago. Have completed the whole sobriety piece, and really worked on giving up the substances, began to gain momentum mentally and spiritually, and still have never addressed the physical issues in my recovery. And I began to see where that matters.
How long have you been in recovery?
7.5 years. Mm-hmm.
Wow, congratulations. That's no small achievement, I must say. And what were your drugs of choice back in your using days?
Methamphetamines and alcohol, marijuana.
Okay, so basically like me, anything you get your hands on, anything that would make you kind of numb the feelings you didn't want to feel, correct?
But the methamphetamines brought so much of the, the confidence and the weight control and being able to lose weight after children. That was a big deal.
That's an interesting point. So you used meth. I didn't realize that from your background. So part of the reason you used crystal meth was to lose weight after your pregnancy.
I got on diet and it led me to methamphetamines.
Okay, and you have one child is 19, I believe, correct?
I got a 21-year-old in college.
21-year-old, okay.
An 18-year-old that's a senior this year, and a 6-year-old going into the first grade.
Wow. So you were sober for your most recent child, correct?
Yes. Never known me in active addiction, but never been able to get the weight off since the childbirth.
Okay. All right. So, I wanted to show, we're going to take a quick break from that right now. I'm going to show a video that was from the book launch down in January in Bryson City. Do you want to do a little build up for people out there who maybe don't know you and obviously weren't there on what the video shows? And after we show the clip, we're going to come back and continue the interview.
So you did an amazing launch to your book at a CrossFit, just to show people how they all coincide, our sobriety and our overall wellness. And then Caleb McCoy, as you've had on the show before, and Caitlin McCoy were doing a polar plunge where they jumped in the river in recovery. And so I had not had a chance to do it yet, and I did it. So
awesome. You were just amazing. I'll tell you so much. I had emailed a message with you before I met you in person, and I just knew you were full of enthusiasm and energy for recovery. And then you proved it to me when I saw you do the polar plunge along with Caleb and Caitlin. So listen, we're going to take a real quick break now. I'm going to show that video, then we're going to come back and continue the conversation, okay?
So everyone knows the Polar Challenge. I'm a little bit late, but if you know me, I'm always late, right? Never late than never, better late than never. But so the Power Challenge started to talk about addiction and recovery and what that looks like, and to support that and support people that still suffer and with substance use disorder. But I want to do it today because this is a new year and this is a new season in people's life, and they need to be willing to break the chains off their life. And when I get in this water,
Welcome back. Welcome back. So, Ginger, how did that feel to take that polar plunge?
Well, that was fun. I went a little downriver. I'm glad I got caught before.
I saw you. I saw you float away, and I said to myself, so I hope she gets near the shore. We may have to fish her out downstream. But here's the thing: here's the thing about it that I think is a beautiful gift, and it's like I feel the same way. That experience and just the happiness from being sober and being able, to do something so liberating as jump into the river, and just to reinforce and like be baptized again with, your new recovery lifestyle. It's an amazing thing. And so when I celebrate my recovery anniversaries, I kind of do the same thing. I do like to do things that are kind of out of normal people would think are is unusual or maybe too much, right? But because I have so much enthusiasm and so much gratitude for my recovery, that to me it makes complete sense, So how did it feel? How did it feel?
Well, we have to make it new. We have to make it fresh. We have to do all these things we've never done, for me that like are exciting, because this is another year, another monument of like my recovery. That's amazing. I made it another hardest year. Is so hard. And like when we make it another one and another one, it's just, we need to celebrate that. Even when we fall short during that year, we made it.
I agree with you. And I also think that the importance of New Year's Day is the way we spend that first day of the year. And I write about this in the book. I think it is consistent with our recommitment to living a certain way in recovery. And, just to be able to to see the sunrise, to jump in the river, get yourself to recovery on January 1st. It's an amazing gift. And it does set the tone for the rest of the year, at least in my opinion. So that was really an amazing thing to see, and to see a commitment. But we've stayed in touch. And over the recent couple of weeks, there's been some problems and some issues with you personally at this point in your recovery. Do you want to amplify on that and share what that's about?
I'm an open book, but what I want to say about something you talk about in that book that I realized I failed to continue in my momentum through the year was connection. Like, get that workout buddy, get that partner walking with you, make it a family event. Those are the things that I'm doing now that are keeping me on track, that I kind of fell short of. I had all this momentum, but I wasn't incorporating other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. So I do know what you're saying, but you recently communicated to me some concerns over not necessarily your psychological health in the context of your recovery, but your physical health. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus, because I think you were getting a little bit ahead talking about how to incorporate the recovery into the physical self as well as the psychological. So if you could just take that step back and maybe explain to people out there who don't know the background, I'd be real appreciative.
So I'm 42 years old with a 6-year-old, and that already gives me a lot to keep up with. And I had been experiencing over the last couple of months, about the last month and a half, issues with chest pain that ran up the side of my jaw, up the side of my jaw. And I had a lot of concerns, but I was just like, surely it's nothing. I'm too young for that. I'll be okay. And went to the doctor. The doctor sent me to the ER. The ER kept me overnight. And that was a really scary place for me to be with a 6-year-old,
What did they say at the ER? What was the reason they kept you overnight?
Kept me over cardiac concern, because my blood pressure when I got there was 189 over 107, with a pulse of 117. They couldn't get the chest pain to stop without nitroglycerin. My blood pressure stayed elevated for about 6 hours before they could really kind of get it under control.
Let me just ask you, how long have you been having those chest pains and the other kind of physical symptoms before you went to the emergency room?
Oh, a month and a half to 2 months. I'd had about 5 major episodes before I even went to the doctor, and I still wouldn't go to the ER. I just went to the doctor.
You went to the doctor. Okay, and then you got some blood work back, correct?
Yeah, the doctor put me in the ER, and the ER kept me hospitalized overnight. Okay. But the blood work that came back from the hospital led me with high HDL triglycerides or low HDL numbers, not good at performance for someone over 40, high LDL triglycerides and cholesterol, and high sugar.
Yeah, you had elevated levels of your. Let me just wait for 1 second because it's telling me poor connection. I apologize. I don't know why.
Okay.
Okay, we're better now. Okay, so when your doctor sent you to the emergency room, and then they decided to keep you overnight. What my understanding is your LDL cholesterol was at 179, and your HDL cholesterol was at 46, and so you had a very high level of what's typically known as the bad cholesterol or negative cholesterol, and very low levels of the good quote unquote good cholesterol, which helps to move substances out of your blood system, and so you don't clot, and so you don't have a stroke, and all those, all the kind of other cardiac issues that happen over time. And then also you had elevated triglyceride levels, which also are indicative of cardiac issues and of concern. So what did your doctor explain to you after you got back your blood work?
Not just the blood work, but I also have a large family history of heart attack, stroke, bypass surgeries. So that was, I've got all the factors leading to an early grave, and my doctor was like, you've really got to get this under control. I'm on a plethora of medicines now, taking like 8 to 12 medications a day that I don't want to be.
Yeah. You sent a photo, and we're going to show that photo in the video after it's edited, but you're on a large number of medications, and you're taking those daily, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what's your understanding of the diagnosis that you have?
Diabetes. Type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
Type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes.
And, high cholesterol.
Okay. And did your doctor discuss with you that these are lifestyle type issues?
Somewhat, they always, I think what's kind of wild after reading some of your book is that they always attack the diabetes, which I know is on the forefront of like what can be controlled nutritionally, but but the triglycerides can be controlled also, nutritionally.
Well, let me just say a couple of things. And you've been reading my book now. And as I said to you, I wanted to have you come on because I think not just you, but so many people in recovery have, by the way, the same diagnosis. Many of them have the same family history. What you're saying and what you're expressing and what you're feeling and what your body's manifesting is not an exception to the rule. You'd be surprised to learn that it's disproportionately the rule, if you will, in recovery, because the rates of type 2 diabetes and hypoglycemia and other kind of cardiac issues related to type 2 diabetes and those lifestyle real illnesses is just there's a majority of people in long-term recovery manifest those diseases. It's not really talked about it. And just like oftentimes when you go to a therapist and you say, I'm depressed, right? What the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, well, let me give you this pill because this pill's going to make you, right? It's like the pharmaceutical solution. And I'm not suggesting that that's not appropriate oftentimes and for certain people.
Mindset. I can't afford that mindset that a pill's going to fix it.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is whenever I went into a counselor and I said, I'm depressed, I never heard from a therapist or a counselor, well, how much exercise are you getting? Are you getting out to the gym? What are you eating? Are you eating comfort foods, late at night? Are you eating things that are going to cause lots of inflammation? Never even a drop. But I did hear plenty of times saying, I'm going to give you a pill that's going to help you wake up. I'm going to give you another pill that's going to allow you to, manage your insulin during the day. I'm going to give you a pill to go to bed. So the point is, what we're talking about and what I talk about in the book, and I think that since you've been reading it, you understand, is while we can't control everything through food and diet, we can make a big difference in our own lifestyle. So why don't you talk a little bit about the things that you've begun to do since the diagnosis and since you got the blood work back to try and address these lifestyle issues in conjunction with what your doctors are suggesting you do as well?
Well, and yeah, the first thing my doctor did say is, we're going to give you this medicine for your cholesterol. We're going to give you metformin. We're going to give you this. That is the first thing he said.
Right.
And so on the second point of that, I want to talk a little bit about what I think especially women experience is I came home mad. I was pissed off. I didn't want to eat at all. I was mad and angry because why should I even do that? Because I can't have soda. I can't have cake. I can't have
right.
I can't have red meat. I can't, like, I was so angry that I literally like cried over food. And I was like, what in the heck am I doing? Like, I know
that. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I had that moment, I was like, this is really sick. Like, I'm really still sick in my head about the way I look at food and the emotions that I've tied to food. Wow. And the validation that I've tied to food. You know, part of my story is that the first thing I was ever addicted to was validation before the substances. I needed to be validated. So now I've just replaced the food and I'm using the food for validation. This makes me happy. This makes me comfortable. This makes me okay. You know, so when I had that revelation, I was like, this is not going to work.
Right.
I am lucky that because of recovery, I have an amazing network of people. So my boss got on board and was like, we're going to do Weight Watchers and we're going to start counting calories. And, we downloaded the app and we started using it and we're eating right. And she's supporting me and eating healthy and bringing in fruits and stuff. You know, we're meal planning together through the week, you know.
But do you realize for that epiphany, like that moment, you know, in addiction recovery, when you were talking about that, when someone finally gets it, they describe it as reaching the turning point and starting to, you know, maybe some people you hit bottom and then you reach that turning point where you finally really, you've suffered so much that you surrender to the fact that you can't control the alcohol, the drugs, the sex, the gambling, whatever it is, right? And then you accept that and you begin this process. So for women out there, not just women, but men who also have, and they know it, but they can't seem to, you know, get it up here or acknowledge it, that they have a dysfunctional relationship with food. Okay. What recommendations do you have for them so that they can, when they have that moment, recognize it in the way that you did and take that negative past and turn it into a positive that can benefit them and their families in the future?
Well, it's a lot like what you just said. You know, I had to push myself to that uncomfort place. That uncomfortable place is where we grow. We all know that when we've been around a couple 24 hours, you know?
That's right.
So when you talk about, like, one thing for me was I'm a clinician. So I work in recovery. I'm in recovery. This is my life. Like, this is what I do. I'm the director of admissions for a men's recovery transitional living program, you know? And so for me, it wasn't realizing it was a parallel for me. Like, I realized the excuses I was making about living right and food are the same excuses I hear every day about people knowing best and not being willing to do the program, not being willing to surrender to a program that's going to make them be more confined. You know what I'm saying? Taking away.
Yes.
So me having that parallel moment where I'm like, I'm sitting here talking about food, like the excuses I still hear every day from people. So you really just have to, it's the spiritual awakening, you know, it's that moment of, is this really the way I want to live my life? Is this really the way I want my recovery to look?
Well, what recommendation in the book? I have certain recommendations for people when they get to that epiphany moment, when they start to realize that although they're abstinent from the drug or the drug of choice or the alcohol or the behavior, because it could be a behavior too, right? They may not be necessarily sober in the sense that they have developed a new lifestyle that enhances their ability to not only to be, you know, to be in the recovery community, but to live healthily in the recovery community, in the sense that there seems to be this, and I write about it in the book, this, and tell me how you feel about it, this separation between what's going on here and what's happening here in the rest of the body. And by bringing it together, the physical health and the mental health, what recommendations do you have to people who are going up on that same seesaw that you were on, you know, in sobriety, right, and not engaging in the things that brought them here, but also not living a healthy lifestyle to try and enhance their health and their happiness in recovery?
I had to make the connections with other people. Like I told you earlier, I had to get my family on board. I had to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even with some clean time, I still had to ask for help, and I had to get honest and say, this is a problem for me. And I had to make connections with people that were willing to support me.
Let me ask you, okay, so your family, because, you know, I just don't think anyone can accomplish anything in recovery seriously without the support of their loved ones and their family that are around them. So when you were upfront with your family about this, what changes or what things did they have you guys done together as a family unit to try and help you move forward and through this struggle?
So we began to walk together as a family. My daughter loves the monkey bars, and so she gets to do the monkey bars while we walk around the park by herself. And then she does some walk, or I walk alone, and my husband plays with her on the playground if I'm walking a longer distance, you know.
Nice.
We take the dogs with us. The dogs get to run and play. We get to walk the dogs. I mean, it is a whole total unit family change. And then I'll tell you, the real eye-opener for me was I'm sitting in the hospital waiting for my husband to go get all my clothes and bring them back. And my daughter's on my lap watching the TV. And every time the machines ding, because my blood pressure is so elevated, ding, ding, and they're, she's, are you okay? Are you okay, Mom?
Your 6-year-old daughter? Oh.
Yeah, my 6-year-old. Yeah. Mommy, are you going to die? Are you dying? And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay, Graceland. But we have to make healthy choices from now on. And we have to get healthy. I realized it in that moment, the fear of my own child, afraid that something was going to happen to me. And it was something that I could control, something that I could not control, but something that I could do something about. Something that I could make some changes in my decision and my thought process, and I could make a difference for her, not just for
me. I'm just going to hold up a picture, and I want you to explain what the photo is of, because I know, you texted me about this. I'm going to hold it really close to the camera. We can see those delicious desserts. So in a minute, I want you to explain what this is. But right now, if you could just go, because you were speaking about your child, you know, my dad used to drink a lot, and I used to watch what went on with him, not my mom, but my dad. And it was really sad, and it has a huge impact. So your daughter saw that, and now, like, what changes from the nutritional point of view, from what you guys are eating as a family, have you implemented to try and address these issues?
We bought an Emerald Lagasse air bake oven that bakes and roasts and does all stuff, all natural, right? And we made it, like I said, this is like your little family easy bake oven. You can help me cook in here. So she helped me while she does her homework. So she helped me cook dinner last night.
Wow.
And then I made, I told her that we cooked her eggs and breakfast this morning in coconut oil. She didn't notice a thing. No different.
The same. Okay, we had spoken about MCT oil. You read about MCT oils and coconut oil in my book, right? So you cooked it for her this morning. I'm sorry, say it again.
All that from your book, and realizing how it's no different.
It's no different at all, right? And so
because the coconut oil broke down faster and wasn't greasy or nasty, didn't have a thick layer of lard on top of our food.
And you didn't substitute any of the taste, right? She didn't even know, correct? All right. And so, like, I'm so glad that you benefited from the book in that regard. I'm telling you, when you get to the recovery superfoods chapter, where I have all kinds of recommendations broken out by category, the thing is too, we're going to get to what these are because they look delicious, right? So you'll discover that just just like you modified some of the ingredients that you made your family breakfast with, you can have sweets, you can bake desserts. You mentioned one of them that you heard of the book, date sugar, which
Oh yeah.
is a substitute. Look at that face.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is it.
This is it. But it's amazing that, and this is the important thing, because you have a big smile on your face. And we're going to get to what the picture is of in a minute. But like, you know, you don't have to give up living to live healthier. And
Yeah.
that's the message in the book. And that's also what I think that you've picked up on and benefited from just so far. So explain what the photo I held up is of those sweets.
So, well, and I want to say too, in teaching my daughter about moderation, like you talk about McDonald's foods and obesity, you know, in your book, and how unhealthy stuff like that is, and telling her she can have one Happy Meal a month, you know, and when she got a pack of Oreos yesterday from her grandmother, you can have 2 today, and that's
Right.
it, you know. So teaching her young how to do things in moderation, you know,
Right.
and not to give up the whole world. But that dessert tray is about table, I should say, was phenomenal.
I'm going to show it again as you're speaking. Go ahead.
So, just so you know, in Bryson City, where I did that polar bear plunge, this is at the First Baptist Church in Bryson City for a recovery-related event. Where this is a recovery event where all these women from the church have baked all these homemade goods, and they looked fabulous. Probably the best table I've seen in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I went over to it and I saw it, and some of my favorite things were on there, and I was like, I'm just not going to do it. And that morning when I got there, they had pastries all out for breakfast, and I was like, there's no healthy choices here.
Right.
I was like, because there was no healthy choices. And
how did it feel when there was no healthy choices? You texted me and I was like, that's huge that you recognized that. And then you didn't partake, even though you wanted to. Like you didn't go for it. Because let me tell you, if I had seen a table like that, and if I had started, I wouldn't stop. I'd be like, it's just like one line of cocaine, just one line of cocaine. Yeah, it doesn't happen. You know, it's the same thing.
One is too many, and 1,000 is never enough.
Never enough, right?
I would have had a sampler, like the plate from lunch. A little bit of everything would have been on there. I just got to taste it. So, but what I realized is at breakfast, I drank water, I drank coffee with, stevia in it, and I just tucked it out till lunch. At lunch, they had a lettuce wrap, which was great. I did that. Mm-hmm. And, but for the dessert table, when I made the decision not to do it, I was like, I'm just not going to do it. And I didn't, and I just walked away, and I went and got my focus on something else. Mm-hmm. And I just left it alone. And luckily it was to the back of me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to keep seeing it. Other thing is when I left there, and I was telling someone about it, even when I was telling you about it, I realized in that moment that, like, for the first time ever, I didn't feel like I had missed out on anything. Mm-hmm. I've never felt that. When I was dieting, when I was trying to lose weight, keeping my focus on losing weight and looking better and not on being healthy, that I always felt like I was being punished. Like I was having to suffer without the things I wanted. And I was having to do without that same anger I had when I came home from the hospital. Mm-hmm. And like for the first time in my life, I said, I didn't eat it, but I don't really think I missed out on anything, because the consequences would have been worse later.
No, I hear you. I mean, that's a huge thing. And, what I recommend, I'm a big fan of journaling, and I'm a big fan of a journal every day, write about in the book, of writing letters to myself. Like when I was trying to quit smoking, I wrote about Dear Tom, and I hung it right over where I used to have my first cigarette every morning. And like, you may want to put something up or write, a Dear Ginger letter, because that's huge. And, when we're having difficult days and we're surrounded, let me say this, you live in a beautiful part of the country, but you live in a part of the country where the foods are so rich, so fatty, And so like they're comfort foods that are the mainstay and big portions, right? This is difficult. And you were at a recovery conference with many professionals, who I'm sure are wonderful professionals, but you wonder at the same time why it is that people who understand these dynamics of addiction and these dynamics of lifestyle choices would have such a big table like this without any positive or healthier. Look, you can have a mix, but no nutritious desserts, no nothing.
And then
So that it's a huge thing.
When they went to ask about what's the great part of today, what really stood out to you, like several people talked about the desserts. What?
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Ginger, we're going about a half hour, and I just want to keep it to a length that people out there will be excited to hear more from you. This is just a process that's beginning for you. I've offered to, you live in the South, I live in New York City, so I've offered to support you in any way I can, by text, by email, by calls, and I hope you'll come back, let's say in a couple of weeks, and give an update to people who are really struggling at home and maybe need some support. So what's your top priorities as you go through the next 2 weeks, but not just you, but your family, to try and continue the progress you're making of changing the nutritional side, the exercise side? And that, by the way, those are also that's the spiritual program. So what's your plan for the next couple of weeks to continue to make progress?
So my top priority is realizing in your book that people over 40 need to exercise twice a day. So I thought I was doing good by walking, and I am. I need to keep doing that. But now I'm going to implement some cardio.
Good for you.
In the morning. And it may just be that all I can do right now is cardio. I'm not ashamed to say where I am weight-wise. I'm at 250 pounds, the biggest I've ever been in my life. Maybe all I can do right now is a little bit of cardio in the morning and walking at night with my family and kind of keeping the walking leisurely. What I am going to also implement is when we walk at night, doing I've learned from you, the fast and the slow, like to really up my metabolism and burn fat. Run a little, walk a little bit, run a little bit, walk a little bit. And maybe it's not a 4-minute mile or a 7-minute mile, but it's a mile. And, and in hopes that it'll start to shave, continue to push myself to shave the time. But really right now, I'm not worried about, at a place to start, is just worried about being consistent. Just for me to continue to be consistent, not making better times, not losing pounds, being consistent.
Let me just address a couple of things. I think with the support of your family and turning into a family activity out in nature, your daughter being on the monkey bars, that gives you a much greater chance of long-term success because you're integrating your family into it. But also, I worked out the first 6 months of my recovery with constant chest pains from just abuse of my body. So I know what it's like to have the chest pain and be like, oh my God, I'm going to have a stroke. So here's the deal. Make sure your doctor signs off and is aware of what you're doing. But things get better. And if you're changing slowly, one of the things that fails over time, and the science shows it and the research studies show this, is when people make massive change, like we're just going to eat healthy at home, we're just going to get vegetables. Unsustainable major changes don't, over a very short period of time, never work. The science shows that. The research studies show that. Integrate these small changes into your diet. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you do a 4-minute mile, a 10-minute mile. The fact is you're moving your body and you move the muscle, you change that thought. Not only that, but your body is designed to move. So if you're going from no cardio or no exercise, to some in the morning, and then I do recommend over 40 to do it twice. The reason is our metabolism is very slow, but also because the studies show after you exercise, you're going to get those good, feel good endorphins and all the other kind of hormones that people crave. You'll get them for a number of hours after the exercise. So if you're doing it in the morning, it should get you into a good shape to get into the morning and that part of the day. And by doing it at night, you're going to speed up the metabolism again. And you're also going to create those positive hormones. And you're doing it with your family, which is incredible. So your 6-year-old has such a great example. And so again, like these baby steps, I'm pretty positive, pretty sure, because it's not just me, it's the science. And it's a lot of people. If you look on the Spiritual Adrenaline Facebook page, you'll see lots of people. What's that?
And the transparency of, and because I just want to say this, because I think if people really watch this video, they need to be able to identify with the fact that my miles look like 20-minute miles, like real talk. That's just where I am right now. But like you said, I'm moving. You know, don't have this expectation that because it's not in 12 minutes that you're not doing something.
If you read my book, you know this to be true. The research studies, which are what you should focus on, not what other people think, right, show that even 5 minutes a day, but consistently over time of walking is positive for the body. One of the big mistakes for people in recovery, I see it all the time, and I, to my own, made some of them, is to say, I didn't exercise, whatever. Now I'm going to run a triathlon, or I'm going to do a super marathon. Because we're addicts and we're alcoholics. We overdo everything, right? So this is about sustainable change that your doctor signs off on, that you've incorporated your family. And the reality is you're also changing what you eat. Those changes in your diet, those healthy MCTs, as opposed to just refined sugar, carbs, basically junk carbs going into your body, they're going to make changes as well. And I'm really excited to see if you continue this, and I think you will, over 3 to 6 months, your blood work's going to be substantially different, different. And you're going to be off those pills. I mean, the majority of those pills. And your doctors, did he say this is lifelong, or did he said you're going to try and work off of those as you make these kinds of changes?
It doesn't matter what he says. I know it's possible, especially with this book. It's possible for me to do it.
All right.
I'm not staying on those pills. There's no way. But, with his recommendation and approval and all that, but that's not what I got clean for.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You know what I'm saying?
Say that again. I couldn't hear you there. Say it again.
I know how to do this. If I do the footwork and let God do the rest, it'll all show itself approved. You know what I mean?
Amen. That's the perfect place to end this talk. And I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you. I hope that people will reach out to you and, support you in this and send you messages and just be there for you. I know you have a great group of people at home, your family, and also where you work. And so I'm just excited. And stay in touch with me on a daily basis and keep me posted on how you're doing. And hopefully maybe in 2 weeks you come back and we can get an update. How about that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Ginger, thank you so much for taking time on your Sunday to speak to me. I appreciate it.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.